Today's video is about when motherhood doesn't come as everyone promised. Introduction: an unfulfilled promise. People have told you, just give birth, and motherhood will naturally appear. That the first moment you hold your child in your arms, all worries will disappear, your heart will be filled with an instinctive, natural love, not something you need to learn. But some mothers hold their children in silence. No tears of happiness, no overwhelming emotions as promised, only exhaustion, and an emptiness that's hard to name. After childbirth, when everyone around you is waiting for you to smile, you ask yourself, why don't I feel anything? Is there something wrong with me? Or was I not born to be a mother? Those questions remain unspoken. They lie dormant in your mind, repeating themselves every night as the room darkens, as the baby's breathing becomes a steady rhythm beside you. You still care for your child. You still breastfeed, change diapers, and rock your baby to sleep. But everything feels like a role you have to play, not a natural instinct as people promised. And then you begin to fear. Fear of being judged if you tell the truth. Fear of other people's stares when they hear you admit, I don't feel the love for my child that I thought I should. For many, the journey of motherhood doesn't begin with a miracle. It begins with confusion, with the feeling that you haven't received what the world says everyone should have. How is motherhood demonstrated? Before you become a mother, you've heard countless stories about motherhood. From family, friends, social media, and movies. These stories are repeated so often that they become a given. Motherhood is instinct. People say that just by hearing a baby cry, a mother knows what it needs. That a mother will naturally know how to hold, soothe, and love. No learning required, no preparation needed, just giving birth is enough. In movies, the moment of childbirth is always depicted beautifully. The mother holds her child in her arms, her face tired but her eyes radiant. All the pain seems to vanish the moment the child utters its first cry. There is no awkwardness, no confusion, only love explodes, instantly. On social media, the image of mothers is even more vividly portrayed. Pictures of mothers smiling while holding their children, status updates about the happiness of motherhood, emphatic affirmations, being a mother is the best thing that has ever happened to me. Few talk about sleepless nights of exhaustion. Few talk about feelings of emptiness, loneliness, or fear. Society has painted an ideal image of a mother, always gentle, always patient, always knowing how to love her child unconditionally. A good mother is one who doesn't complain, doesn't doubt herself, and doesn't feel tired because of the child she gave birth to. And when you embark on the journey of motherhood, you carry all those images with you. You wait for instinct to come. You believe that with enough effort, everything will naturally fall into place. You tell yourself, surely I just need more time. But then reality turns out differently. You don't know what to do when your baby cries. You're overwhelmed by seemingly small things. You feel clumsy, slow, and not like a real mother. The gap between the image you've been painted and your real experience is widening. And that gap creates pain. Not because you don't love your child, but because you don't resemble the image of the mother you've been taught as the right one. Few people tell you that motherly instinct isn't a gift given to everyone at the same time. It doesn't appear in the same way, at the same time. And sometimes, it doesn't come in the warm, sweet emotion that people often describe. There are mothers who don't feel love overflowing. They feel responsibility first. They care for their children because they have to. They stay because they have no other choice. And that makes them believe they are lacking. But the truth is, no one is fully prepared for motherhood. There are no classes that teach you how to be a perfect mother. There is no script that guarantees your emotions will go in the right direction. The image of motherly instinct that society paints has inadvertently created a standard. A standard that makes mothers who don't fit it feel wrong, feel alone, feel unworthy of the title, mother. And when you don't live up to that promise, you start to blame yourself. You hide your true feelings. You try to pretend to be okay. Because in this world, every mother has to be okay. But perhaps, what needs to be re-examined isn't you, but how we've painted the story of motherly instinct. A beautiful story, but not real enough. A promise that led too many mothers to believe they had failed, simply because their own feelings didn't match those in the story. When instinct doesn't appear, there's a moment many mothers remember vividly, though they never talk about it. It's when they're alone with their child, the room is silent, and no one is watching. In that moment, they wait for some feeling to emerge. A connection, an instinctive love, something to reassure them. I'm doing the right thing. But nothing comes. You look at your child, and see only a tiny being needing care. No hatred, but there's no surge of emotion as promised. Just emptiness, a prolonged silence in your heart, causing you to begin to panic. You still do everything a mother has to do. Breastfeed, change diapers, hold your child when they cry. You do them through effort, not instinct. Every task requires thought. Every decision makes you worry about making a mistake. There are times when you ask yourself, why am I trying so hard for something that should come so easily? Why do others seem fine, while I don't? That emptiness isn't loud. It's not like sadness that can make you cry. It's quiet, clinging to you all day. Even when you smile at others. Even when you say you're fine. Nighttime is when everything becomes clearest. When the child sleeps. When the house is silent. You lie there, exhausted, and feel like you're disappearing. No longer the person you used to be. But not yet the mother everyone expected. Some mothers begin to fear their own thoughts. They are afraid because they can't remember a single moment of happiness since giving birth. They are afraid because they feel cold and distant. They are afraid because questions they believe no good mother should ever have crossed their minds. And because of fear, they remain silent. They don't tell their husbands. They don't tell their families. They don't tell their friends. Because this society doesn't have much space for mothers to say, I don't feel the way I should feel. Instead, they blame themselves. They conclude that they are selfish, that they are ungrateful, that perhaps they were wrong from the start when they became mothers. But what no one tells them is, after childbirth, a woman's body and mind no longer function as before. Hormones change dramatically, sleep is deprived, the body is still recovering from pain, and the mind has to bear an overwhelming responsibility before it can adapt. When instinct doesn't appear, it's not because you lack love. It's because you're in a state of survival. You're trying to get through each day, and in that survival mode, emotions are often suppressed so you can keep standing. There are mothers who show their love through actions before they feel love in their hearts. They stay, they don't leave, they do what needs to be done, even when their hearts are empty. And it is in that staying, even in silence, even when tired, even when not like the initial promise, that another form of instinct is forming. Slow, not noisy, not like the story society tells. When instinct doesn't appear immediately, it doesn't mean it will never come. Maybe it just needs time. And perhaps you're not wrong at all. You're just experiencing a different path of motherhood, one that's harder, lonelier, but no less real. What no one tells, instinct doesn't always come right away. There's a truth that's rarely spoken, because it's neither pretty nor easy to hear. Maternal instinct doesn't always come right after you give birth. Not the first moment you hold your baby, not when you hear their first cry, and not even after you've been with your child for days and nights. There are mothers who wait a very long time, and during that waiting period, they live with the feeling that they are missing something important. Something that society says every mother must have, but no one tells them that love doesn't always appear like a big wave. Sometimes, it comes very slowly, like water seeping through layers of dry, barren soil. After childbirth, a woman's body isn't just tired, it's completely turned upside down. Hormones fluctuate wildly, sleep is fragmented into pieces. A feeling of pain, loss of control, and responsibility weighs heavily on you all at once. In that state, the mind prioritizes survival, not emotion. You wake up because your child cries. You do what needs to be done. You try not to give up. And in the process, emotions are pushed aside. Not because you're emotionless, but because you're trying to keep yourself standing. There are mothers who don't feel love through warm feelings. They feel it through actions. By still holding their child even when exhausted. By staying in that room even when they just want to disappear. By doing small, repetitive things that no one praises. No one tells them that. That's also a form of instinct. Instinct isn't always a feeling. Sometimes, it's the choice to stay. It's about continuing to do what needs to be done, even when your heart feels empty. There are mothers who only truly feel connected when their children are a little older. When their children start looking at them. When their children smile. When their children respond to their presence. And then, love takes on a clearer form. But because no one says this from the beginning, many mothers live in fear for a long time. Fear that their instincts are broken. Fear that they will never be able to love their children the right way. The truth is, there is no single, right way to be a mother. There is no single timeline that applies to everyone. Some people love their children right away. Some people love their children gradually. And neither is wrong. The most dangerous thing is not that instinct comes late. It's not that the mother believes she's wrong simply because her feelings aren't the same as the majority. That belief isolates them. It shames them because of their own experience. It prevents them from seeking help when needed. If there's one thing that needs to be clarified, it's this. Motherhood isn't a miracle that happens in an instant. It's a process built from very tiring, very frustrating, very silent days. And if today you still don't feel what everyone promised, that doesn't mean you've failed. Perhaps you're just halfway there, a path that's rarely talked about, but very real. The mother's silent guilt. There is a kind of guilt that no one sees. It is not spoken aloud. It has no witnesses, but it follows the mother day and night. It is the guilt of not feeling the way she should feel. That mother did nothing wrong. She didn't neglect her child. She didn't leave. She never stopped trying. But deep inside, there was always a whisper, "I'm not good enough." That guilt began very early, when she heard seemingly harmless words. Being a mother is wonderful. Having children makes you forget all the weariness. Just seeing your child is enough. And when her experience didn't match those words, she didn't question the story being told. She questioned herself. She started comparing herself to other mothers, to the photos online, to the stories told with pride. And in every comparison, she was always the loser. She felt guilty for being tired, guilty for wanting to be alone, guilty for sometimes just wanting to be silent, instead of holding her child one more time. Guilty for missing her old life. Guilty for having thought, if only I didn't have to be so strong. But the biggest sin of all was the sin of not daring to speak out. Because the mother understood very well, this society easily forgives an exhausted mother, but it doesn't easily accept a mother who admits she's unhappy. And so she learned to be silent. Learned to answer, "I'm fine," when asked. Learned to smile at the right time. She learned to hide the thoughts she believed that no good mother should have. That guilt didn't stop her. On the contrary, it made her try harder. Try twice as hard. Try until she was exhausted. Because in her mind, there was always one thought: I have to make up for my lack of instinct. But the harder she tried, the more tired she became. The more tired she became, the worse she felt. And the cycle repeated itself, silently, without escape. Few people told the mother that guilt doesn't always come from wrong actions. Sometimes, it comes from unrealistic expectations. Expectations that had been placed on her shoulders long before she knew she would become a mother. No one told her that you can be a good mother, even if you're not happy all the time. Even when you doubt yourself. Even when you need help. When guilt goes unnamed, it turns into shame. And when the shame is great enough, the mother begins to believe she doesn't deserve to be heard. But the truth is, you are not to blame for your feelings. You are not to blame for being tired. You are not to blame for your motherhood journey not being like someone else's story. That silent guilt says nothing about your worth. It only says, you have carried too much alone. And perhaps, what the mother needs is not to try harder, but to be allowed to admit, "I'm having a hard time," without feeling ashamed of it. The gentle truth. There's a truth that needs to be told slowly, gently, because the listener has been tired for too long. You're not wrong, not because you lack instinct, not because you don't love enough, but because the stories about motherhood you've heard for years have been too simplistic compared to reality. The truth is, There's no single timeline for loving your child. There's no clock that starts counting down the moment you give birth. There's no rule that says, after how many days, how many weeks, you're obligated to feel something. Some people love their children immediately. Some need a long time. Some only feel connected when their child can see, smile, and respond to their presence. And all those paths are real. After giving birth, a mother isn't just tired. She is recovering. She is relearning how to live in a different body, a different circadian rhythm, a different identity. In the process, the blurring of emotions is very human. Not because of a lack of love, but because the mind is processing too many things at once. The second gentle truth is, instinct isn't always emotion. We're used to calling instinct by warm feelings. But instinct is sometimes much quieter. It's waking up exhausted. It's holding your child even when your heart is empty. It's staying, day after day, unnoticed. Many mothers show their love through actions before they feel it in their hearts. And that doesn't make that love any less valuable. The third gentle truth is, you don't need to be as strong as others think. Motherhood isn't a test of endurance. You don't get extra points for being silent. You don't become a better mother just because you endure more. Your need for help doesn't mean you're weak. It just means you are human. There's one crucial thing many mothers never hear. You can both love your child and hate the experience of motherhood at times. Those two things can coexist. And that doesn't make you a bad mother. The final gentle truth is, you're not as alone as you think. It's just that many people are silent like you. They don't tell their stories. Not because they have nothing to say, but because they're afraid of being misunderstood. If you could see all the mothers silently struggling, you'd realize that your experience isn't uncommon. It's just rarely acknowledged. Perhaps the most healing thing isn't hearing that everything will be alright, but hearing that your feelings are valid. You don't need to force yourself to feel differently. You don't need to love your child in a way someone else has already defined. You just need to be allowed to go through this journey at your own pace. The gentle truth isn't a promise. It doesn't say you'll be better tomorrow. It just says, you're not wrong for being this way. And sometimes, that's all it takes for a mother to breathe a sigh of relief. If you are here, if you're listening here, you probably didn't watch this video by chance. Perhaps you're in a quiet room, while everyone else is asleep. Perhaps you're wearing headphones, afraid that if someone hears you, they'll understand your vulnerability. Or maybe, you're just searching for an answer to a feeling so hard to name within you. If you're here, perhaps you've tried so hard. Perhaps you've woken up every day with an exhausted body. You've done what needed to be done, even though you had little energy left. You've told yourself that just a little more effort, everything would be alright. But everything still feels so heavy. If you're here, perhaps you're wondering, when will I feel like a real mother? When will things feel lighter? And perhaps, you're too tired to keep waiting for an answer. If you're here, please know this. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to prove that you're strong enough. You don't need to prove that you deserve the title of mother. The fact that you're here, hearing these things, already shows that you're still trying to survive. And sometimes, survival is enough. Maybe you don't love your child in the way you imagined. Maybe you love your child in a very different way, by not leaving. By staying, even when you don't know if you're doing the right thing. If you're here and feeling guilty about your thoughts, let me make this clear. Thoughts don't define who you are. Fleeting thoughts, taboo questions, don't make you a bad person. They're just saying you're very tired. If you're here and feel like you're not yourself anymore, that doesn't mean you've lost your old self. Maybe you're just in the middle of a huge transition, a phase that no one is fully prepared for. You don't need to love your child in a loud, dramatic way. You don't need to feel happy every day. You don't need to be like anyone else. If you're here, perhaps what you need most right now is not advice, not solutions, but someone to say, I believe in you. Believe that you're doing your best in your circumstances. Believe that you're not broken. Believe that you're not a shameful exception. If you can, try doing one very small thing. Not for your child, but for yourself. A deeper breath. 1 minute of stillness, doing nothing. 1 moment of allowing yourself to admit, I'm struggling. You don't need to share it with everyone. Just don't hide it from yourself. If you're here and feeling drained, please remember, you deserve support. From a friend, from a professional, from anyone who can be there for you without judgment. You don't have to go through this journey alone, even if you have been for a long time. If you're here, perhaps the most important thing I want to say is, you're still here. And that, in this situation, is already a huge effort. Conclusion: motherhood doesn't begin with instinct. Perhaps, after all that has been said, what needs to be retained is not an explanation, but permission. Permission to believe that motherhood doesn't always begin with instinct. For many, motherhood begins with overwhelming feelings, with responsibilities that come too quickly, with long, sleepless nights, with the feeling of no longer recognizing oneself. And in those early days, instinct doesn't appear as a dazzling light. It hides in very small things, very ordinary things, to the point that you don't realize it's there. Instinct might be waking up when your baby cries, even though all you want to do is stay still. It's about staying in that room, even when everything inside you wants to leave. It's about continuing to live, continuing to care, even when you feel nothing at all. For many, motherhood doesn't begin with an explosive love. It begins with staying, and then, over time, from those stays, something very slowly forms. Not noisy, not like the stories you've heard, but yours. Perhaps one day, you realize you've become accustomed to your child's breath. Accustomed to the new rhythm of life. Accustomed to having a tiny life present in your life. And perhaps, you'll call it love. Or you won't need to name it at all. What matters isn't what you feel, but how you've gone through this journey. With how much effort, so much silence, so much courage that no one sees. If today you still don't feel the instincts they promised, please remember, you're not late. You're not broken, you're just taking a different path. And that path, however slow, however difficult, is still the path of motherhood.